definitely all eyes are reined in on all that's taking place in the United States with respect to the US elections, as the verdict of the counting of the ballots is currently underway. And it seems like, as per the latest numbers that we have with us, the electoral votes seem to be indicating a 52.6% voting towards Donald Trump and 99 for Kamala Harris. We work closely and are still, of course, closely watching out for the swing states. Do remember, over 82 million people in the country have taken advantage of the early voting, casting their ballots. And Nikunj, going by what it is, tilt towards Donald Trump, but I guess we will have a little more clarity soon.
Okay, the current numbers are saying that it is advantage Republicans, but with American or US elections, I've always seen is that you don't call it till the time the last ballot is counted, because there are swing states, there are postal ballots. It's going to be a exciting morning, but it may well be a long night. For the moment, yes, it appears that Republicans do have an advantage and Donald Trump may make a comeback. But this is subject to change depending on the swing states, which we know about it. The road to the White House, I think, would be a function of Pennsylvania like last time. The road to the White House would be a function of which of the northern states, in a sense, are able to flip. If Democrats are able to retain them, it's going to be Kamala Harris. If there is a complete change in Pennsylvania or a little bit of drop in one of the Democrat states, then it's going to be Donald Trump. But for the moment, looking at the early leads, which are subject to change, it appears that Donald Trump could well be the next president. We are not calling out the outcome of any election, but we are simply putting facts on the table with a caveat that it's an exciting morning. It's going to be a last night. The swing states have to open up. The last ballot has to be counted. Unlike India, the US electoral process is slightly different. It is slightly more complex. So you really will have to go by the wins rather than the leads to decide which way things are moving.
Yeah, and Anisha was saying, going by what we have seen so far in terms of the data, Donald Trump has won the 10 states, including Florida, Indiana, Kentucky, and more, while the Democrat Kamala Harris has won Vermont, New Jersey, and 4 other states. And this is, of course, the early projections that have streamed in. So we will, of course, like we said, it's not done until it's done. And it's only once we do have all of the ballot votes that are counted that we will know the actual results. But of course, the key swing states like Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all of that will continue to remain fairly critical. Having said that, where has that left the US markets overnight? Well, we have seen a pretty steady jump, a 400-point gain for the Dow Jones. The Russell 2000 futures as well have climbed as we've seen the election results rolling in. And you've got most of the Asia Pacific markets that are holding out, barring the Hong Kong markets, which are down about 1% or so. So going by the kind of handover that we have, it's a fairly positive one. A quick check-in on the Nifty indicative rates as well for our own markets, what it's indicating. And that'll just come up for you on your screen. But Anisha, going by what we've seen overnight, it's been a rally on Wall Street.
Yeah, it's been a rally on Wall Street, and I think what Street will like is the fact that there is a bit of a clarity which is emerging. It was expected to be very neck to neck. We were being told that perhaps we'll not get the outcome very soon. It might get litigated and all of that, and uncertainty is something which is not a market's friend at all, and the Street does not like it. But overnight, at least, the US markets jumping up quite substantially gives you the kind of feeling that the markets are perhaps reading into the early trends that we have been getting so far. 177 coming in for Donald Trump at the moment versus 99 for Kamala Harris, so not as neck to neck. Of course, as we talked about, the swing state of Pennsylvania will be important. Georgia is something which has gone the way of Kamala Harris already, at least as per the early trends. But we'll wait by and see how it really progresses, and we'll get the experts to talk to us about what it really means for India, because while Kamala Harris win was expected to be status quo, because it would have been Democrats in the House which would have continued, and of course, there's a bit of a continuity which was expected. But with Mr. Trump coming in, there would be quite a bit of overhaul which was expected not only in the White House but also across the various levels of their government functioning and what they have in store with respect to the overall trade tariff war coming in. That will be fairly important because in no uncertain terms, Mr. Donald Trump has been saying that his main agenda is Make America Great Again. He's called India Tariff King. Remember when there was that Prime Minister Modi visit that happened recently to the United States, he did not meet Mr. Donald Trump or Ms. Kamala Harris either, and there was that entire rhetoric about the tariffs being high in India, and that is expected to curb. But in context of that, Nikunj, it does seem like that companies, the Indian companies which have exposure in US with respect to the manufacturing setup being there, they might be the ones that get to benefit because Trump is not against India per se. His whole idea being that, of course, it should be America-led.
See, that's sideshow. These are like dozen of companies, and they may gain, but that's the sideshow. The big picture here is that what will change, and what will change incrementally, what will change dramatically, and what could be the implications of those change if Trump comes back. Well, Trump means lower taxes. He lowered the taxes in the Republican regime, and that gave rise to a huge bull market. And India pretty much followed what US did, which is that global taxes, American taxes were brought down, and in India also taxes were brought down. So the cut in corporate taxes is something which has fueled a very strong bull run in American equities. B, that also means that if you're cutting taxes, you'll have to take care of the money printing which the US Fed is doing. For that, you'll have to increase tariffs. Increased tariffs means that there is going to be more scrutiny when it comes to imports, more advantage when it goes to exports. That means local inflation in America is unlikely to go in a very different manner. Also, we don't know which way things would move, but the last Republican administration, in a sense, was also a time when there were a lot of cross currents which were done. So I really hope that the global setup does not change, the setup of NATO, the setup of other things, because Donald Trump is really capable of making those changes which Joe Biden, in a sense, never even attempted to do. So that's the second risk. One is corporate tax will remain low. Second is tariffs go higher. What happens to inflation? Third is, will Fed be given a upper hand? Will Fed be given a free hand in terms of keeping their monetary policy going? And fourth, in a sense, would largely be what really happens to these big trade blocs and what happens to NATO and what happens to other important trade blocs. While the Republican regime has not been bad for global financial markets and for equity markets, so you cannot say that, okay, Kamala Harris is good for stock market and Donald Trump is bad for stock market. No, there is no evidence, because markets have rallied during the Bush regime, markets have rallied during the Obama regime. So there is no evidence to really prove that. But Trump is always this unknown commodity. So the fear of uncertainty, the fear of unknown is something which markets will have to deal with, and that is something which only time will tell.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.